We are going to get started. Welcome. My name is Christina Woolner, and I'm here to welcome you on behalf of Kaid Somali Arts and Culture. We're thrilled to be organizing this event in conjunction with the London Literature Festival again this year. And I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I will hand over to Erica, who's going to be chairing this evening.
Good evening. Welcome to this evening celebration of British Somali poetry. You are in for an absolute treat tonight. We have 4 exceptional poets who are all writing in different ways and styles and directions about the big stuff of life. They all have something to say about diaspora, about diasporic Somali experience, but also so much more besides. So why am I here, you might be thinking to yourself? Well, my name is Erica Hesketh, and I'm a poet as well. I'm from Japan and Denmark, and I'm here living in London now. For 8 years, I was the director of an organisation called the Poetry Translation Centre, which is based in Bethnal Green now, but it was based in Deptford for a while. And the PTC is an organisation that champions poets in translation from all around the world, from Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America. So in my role at the PTC, I had the great pleasure of getting to know Ayan Mahmood and Kaid Somali Arts and Culture over many years, collaborating on beautiful events featuring Somali poets, both from the Horn and also UK-based. So I'm hugely admiring of everything that Kaid achieves and continues to achieve for Somalis outside the Horn, and I'm very honoured that they asked me to be part of this event tonight. So thank you very much for having me. Also thank you to the Southbank Centre for hosting this event as part of the 2025 London Literature Festival. As it's totally sold out, maybe next year we'll get an even bigger venue. So the format of this event is going to be that our poets will read one by one, about 7 or 8 minutes each. So you get a big helping of poetry to start with. And then we'll be all in conversation together and discussing their work in a bit more detail. Then you'll hear another extra poem to give you a chance to think of some questions. And then at the end, we'll have a chance for your questions to the panel. So without any further ado, let me introduce our first poet tonight. Warda Yassin is a British-born Somali poet and secondary school teacher based in Sheffield. I know lots of you are friends with Warda. She's a former Sheffield Poet Laureate and winner of the Women's Poetry Prize. Her debut pamphlet, Tea with Cardamom, won the New Poets Prize and was published by the Poetry Business in 2019. Please give a big hand to Warda.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for that, Erica. And thank you to Christina and Ayan for asking me to read tonight and be part of this. I'm really excited. And where's my mum? My mum is here today. She never comes to anything, so that is deserving of a shout out. And my best friends. So the first poem I'm going to read, I'm from Sheffield, and we have a hotel, the Double Treetop Hotel in Hilton, and a lot of Somali weddings were held there over the years. We're sort of banned now, but I have really fond recollections of going to like weddings there as a girl. So this is called the Treetop Hotel. My weddings get started after midnight, shedding trench coats like insecurities, revealing black swan necks, gold hoop risks, all of us a swarm of sparkle, making way for a bride to strut down a phone-lit runway, lathered in yellow mustard beads, swathed in red, gold, green, rattling our tongues like it's B-Town Somaliland. A security guard trolling screens for background beauty, girls peacocking who you got on Snapchat, flipping their hair back, leaving aunties dangling in the doorways, dance floors waxed in R&B, that mother-daughter dance, at least one girl mushrooming the rest, with a fro so big and heels so skinny. The boys we'd like to love, hovering like a bad idea. The windows steamed with light gossip, no backbite reaching Gel Street. Names frothing across lips, sipping pink cardamom. My dress stitched to my skin, my abaya oceaning as I step out to catch my breath. The Buramba olds of the elders, chanting our beauty, to be held, to behold, asli, ghali. Okay. And this next one is called Swifts. I wrote it a couple of years ago after seeing some outside and someone telling me that the birds migrate back to Africa, and it just reminded me of my grandmother. So this is Swifts. I saw swifts today, a small ashy vortex turning scarf in the Maghreb sky. And I remembered the poet in Ledbury who told me they were African visitors here for the summer. I thought of my grandmother, but not with her wings jammed against the black of a floral chair in a tiny box. Instead, she was a swift, with ski-like wings curved skywards in her burgundy jilbab. Eyelashes flooded in rain prayer. Her hair soft patches of henna like copper burning through streams. All those mid-flight du'as that will never land. Now I watch the flight of aunties whirling through rooms, arguing over this last winter, the cost of oak, never giving the daughter-in-laws her gold bangles, and how the war turned their summers here into a lifetime. Thank you. This one is called Somaliland. Rope hair hung from kufis. His sapped face glints with gold. There is a gap between his teeth. How I long to live there, privy to a kinder place, where hands are formed by the love of daughters, where children master the languages of God and mathematics. And after curfew, women sing forbidden gabes. We see a shepherd in his movements. In his fists, diplomats nursing the burnout of a loyal heart. He is the man who stayed behind, nicknamed his first son as Muhammad. From here, I watched its body skin itself of loss and grow into a new life overseas. Oh, how I long to put him on the map. This very real thing. This shoehorned boy. This black man of an island. That's right. That's kind. And then this is, I'm a school teacher. I've been a school teacher for, 10 years now. And we teach a lot on the curriculum of war, and there was this one particular class where I had a lot of students when I was teaching the war poetry that had experienced it directly. And this is some of the things that they told me in class. And this is called What Ahmed Told Me in GCSE English. War is not that deep. Well, these poets are moving mad in this anthology. It's not about fishers, grandfathers, or holding a photo of somebody else's death. There are no similes to compare it to. When they bombed my secondary school, it was summer every day. And we discovered you can find football in rubble. We kick them across the powdery streets like the Kirby you play here, always keeping close tally. Nobody argued about collecting balls from behind knee-length fences or the neighbour's zaytun tree. Although I remember my mother stopped sleeping through the dhuhr siesta, and her eyes looked like small buttons whenever she watched me win. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Just wow. Okay, so Elmi Ali is a Manchester-based poet and multidisciplinary storyteller whose work spans performance, translation, and education. His practice explores the intersection of language and creative resistance, often within a global post-colonial framing. Elmi. Where are you? Okay. Welcome Elmi to the stage.
Please keep clapping. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me? I'm Elmi. The first poem I'm going to read is a poem I'm going to dedicate to the man taking the photos over there, Ali Naji. And he did a fantastic talk on Somali funk and Somali jazz. And this is a poem, very old poem called Praise Song to Jazz for Ali Naji. We have a great history of Somali funk and jazz that we haven't seemed to revisit it. It's somehow stuck in the 60s, so 70s, 80s. So any musicians in here? Revival. Praise song to jazz. You, the sound of heavy cast iron and salt and blackness and 1,000 sheets of cotton quilted. You, a bobbing sea vessel, dumbstruck and blue, pulled into a tuba, flattened to a steel pan, saxophoned, forced, spun into a bass guitar, saxophoned, forced into key, tasting your song unapologetically through gritted teeth, toying with the harmony at the edge of a fallow field, the staccato of my heartbeat, dropping everything to carry a note and then walking out on it, the fresh of a new melody in your strut. You, the cinnamon, listening to your own running, a church song, a humming, an indigo thing, half a shadow cast on a solemn face, a fog of tobacco, moonshine, rum even, an old tune, a wild for freedom ting, found between tight-lipped men and gasping women, sweating, soothing, being. Thank you. Remember, I like claps. Thank you. Yeah, poets are very vain. Not all of them will admit it. I've been watching the news, which I don't advise anybody does. But this is a poem because sometimes you don't have words to say things. So this is called Bad Words or Meaning is Dead. 1. In this decade, words have little meaning. Yet poets persist in their game of letters, keen to kindle crackling flame from empty cavity, left by old fire. The phantom bite of once big tooth, once molar, the old promise of life, our new eternal techne. Our fingers frequent failing. We fear falling like trees in unheard forests. No bird's song to wind open the stomata. No respiration or respite. Our fruits ripen and rest uneaten. The poet's pen breathed badly. A plow with no seed to plant. A brow that doesn't glisten in sweat. I can't. It can't inspire the expired. We need miracles for that. For escaping death, take to footpath, descend well-trodden valley and depressions, take no turns, don't look back, don't eat, it's heady. Make suffering a choice, or suffer choices, or set oneself alight, or set it all down, make it light. Unscrew the artifice that is screwing you. Ask what beauty, cute to sublime, can carry a three-legged stool, a monoblock chair, to earth plowed by dumb bomb. Can carry pad and easel, a notebook, to earth plowed by dumb bomb. And hearth become home, and all colors are charcoal, and a face melts off a child that turns to head there. And silence, he has no mouth left to cry. Balance that on heavy heads. What art? Whose craft? Remember, when one married to the pen was condemned to eyes, peeled of the wool the wolves wear. How tiresome are eyes that will not suffer deception, not wet with tears that magnify the sight, not sobered by pain that calibrates the senses, just covered, which means seen but not witnessed, heard but not felt. Being of a land of particularities, being of walls without windows, of envelopes without addresses, being unknown. All the while, time expires, cheap as life. 2. I am of all lands, and the sea calls to me. A grain of sand at once in the crucible of a vast desert plain, at once at the tip of foaming waves as they rush into claiming things that no one can hold on to. Not too long, carry on, not too long, carry the grains that pass between the hip joints. A line through an hourglass, the single file of time turning in its own weight. A child's head cresting face down. This joy requires tears, the resetting of bones, the first wailing, the one we deformed into a smile. We are to see this earth first, heard by the dirt first, even if we are doomed to rise above it. All seeds first sing songs in dark places, before they learn to cast shadows, before canopies shudder with the weight of their own fruit, before we learn caution, or that feet are meant to be sure, or tongues articulate, or questions considered, or jokes funny, or that when we fall, when life itself slips out of us, when the hand leaves the gloves, that the dirt we believed soiled us, the very humus that hangs quietly between our toes, will once again catch us, dress us decent, embrace us dignified, will let us be forgotten, will allow us home. Thank you. One more. I live in Manchester, and in the Manchester Museum they have a collection of Somali artifacts. It's not very big, but it's there because we currently don't have a Somali museum. We have one in Somalia, it doesn't have many artifacts. So I'm very happy for the lovely anthropologist, colonialist person who went and got some, because that means I can get to see it. 30 years post-war gives you perspective. So this is called Gashan. I asked to see spears, but they couldn't carry it. So they got me a shield instead. So Gashan. 1. In lieu of a spear, we have a shield. The sharp edge of a greeting, what we tongue into the quiet between strangers and friends. The metamorphosis from myself to mindless dervish, dervish to democrat, democrat to comrade, comrade to warlord, to flies that follow famine, to pirate spat out by hunger into the sea, to immigrant that ricochets into the world, a fragment, a something once whole, now shattered, now terrible loss, now terror, now terrorist, now terrorized, an uneven set of incomplete abstracts woven into an ass to pin tall tales on, and now finally here. Hair parted, hypervisible, late to the party, a visitor, escorted, instructed, walked and guided to things so deep inside me that this butterfly, wingspan of a monarch, this book of blue royal flying papers, this is still nostalgic. A caterpillar yet to molt, the unformed leaf cutter, the security of so many legs working hard to ground you in your own nature. And so, I am feeling out of sorts. Not myself, not holding a spear but a pen, writing down what was once carried out. What is past is a noiseless boom. And this tongue does not kill silence like the ones that came before it did. I am looking for where I can tear it all down, cause an abrupt rupture in the old seams holding back the traffic of necessary news, on all the beggar's pennies, the value of your monetized attention, like loud like cowbells in the perfect rhythm, a bull and a heifer in lazy stride turned home full of cud. I pray. The easement of congestions and pileup. I pray, call the easement of congestions and pileups, reach to the delicate snipping of a knot that will cause the lump in your throat to unfurl. I want to cause joy's sticky and infectious relief to spurt, to spray, to gush like a belly laugh, because our life become cheap, like a burp that escapes you, mid-appetite, a small inconvenience that you apologize for. 2. A shield is also a choice. We will not use words like jet or drone. They're not birds that bring more than just rain. We will not use words like mortar outside of our spice. We will abandon things that explode, what favors pox over flavor. This seismology will carry but will not present aftershocks on anyone's Richter scale. The absence of reading will always confound the science of the literate. We will utter a contained tremor, the friction in a voice box articulating a blessing, and the only continental plates that pass over here, everlasting and content with the weight of our heaped peaks of hospitality. We are plain folk, fond of making table mountains, quick to make aspirational economy of tight spaces, such that the friction is met with a ga'al isma'irir sho. How lovers cherish the tightness of intimacy. We will take refuge in how we bond like sutures, puncture to attach, draw closer even as we draw blood. Ours is the aesthetics of wielding sharp objects. The needle is a spear between fingers, and our horn is a dagger in the hands of a tall continent. Ours is the aesthetic of wielding sharp objects. The needle is a spear between fingers, the poetics of the harqanle, and the singer's sewing machine, a needle, a wheel, a pedal, a spool of thread, and relations that can always be mended. A well-read woman once commented how a well in the desert is a warming hearth in the dead of winter. How each of us finds in our own climes, how each of us finds life in our own climes. In the plains where men like me carried spears, it is a deep, cavernous well, each descent a calculated aspiration, and we raise our skirts and coax and sing to coax out the water. Such is the depth of our thirst, or the miracle of its quenching. In lieu of a spear, there is no need of a shield, no need of formal introductions or addresses. We call it in every greeting. It is the waran between your lips, carries the same certainty as a beam of sunlight being reflected in the metallic sheen of a spear. Calls my kin to me so that they are beside me in the nabad of my brother, and I am never alone in my defense. Thank you.
Thank you, Elmi. So, our final poet before our conversation is Samatar Elmi, and he is an award-winning writer, musician, and educator. His debut pamphlet, Portrait of Colossus, was a Poetry Book Society choice, which is a really big deal. And his collection, The Epic of Kader Idris, came out with Flip Dye and Bloomsbury last year. Welcome, Samatar.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am absolutely maftin. Mad hot in here. Right. When I was reading for the first time Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, I thought to myself, this is good, this is really good. But I just wish people in the UK knew about Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, right? Just like, if you want some advice and guidance and aphorisms that are just unreal, and I'll start with one. of his, taught us that be like the flower that gives its fragrance even to the hand that crushes it. I'm going to start with one poem that speaks to that, if I can find it, because I'm pretty bad at organising myself, unfortunately. It is in here somewhere, right? Is it at the front? I don't know. Is it in this bucket? Yes. England. Even to the hand that crushes it. In lieu of a detailed taxonomy, the name of trees I camped beside, in lieu of a firm footing, is the solemn recognition that I know you more than everywhere else put together. Not quite belonging, but the closest I will come to finding my home is walking alone at the end of the night over Parliament Bridge, past Nelson's Column, up to Camden, up and up until Hampstead, where the first impressions of dawn are the songs of birds, whose names I never had to learn for them to sing for me. Thank you. I wrote this poem maybe 10 years ago, sometimes like that now, long time ago. And it's about my cousin and his relationship to my auntie. And he's a good lad. And you always kind of, people always say, he's a good lad, he's all right, he's a good lad. He gets into a bit of trouble, but and he is a good lad. But he has got into a lot of trouble. And this was the first time me and my brother kind of got him out of some trouble, but he was still a juvenile then, and we kind of went and spoke to the Crown Prosecution Service and said, like, no, he's a good lad. He's a good lad. Like, he's just going through a lot, and he was going through a hell of a lot. But things took a turn, and he was part of the first case in the UK where they extended the joint enterprise for murder. They know he never killed the lad who died because that was his friend who died. And I'll be the first to admit my cousin should be in jail. Should be in jail for a long time, but not 30 years. He should be in jail for 15 years. And he should, and I'd give him a good hiding as well. And I'm not making light of it at all. But ultimately, as with a lot of things, the last person to get hung in the UK with capital punishment was a relative of mine. And he was hung in Cardiff in the 50s. Last person in the UK ever. And he was recently exonerated because he didn't do it. Right? And I'm sure many people in the audience know about that story. Mahmoud Natan, Allah yarhamu. And you're a divergent man. And he was just easy pickings. And I think with my cousin, and I think with a lot of the young people in this country who kind of get wrapped up in trouble they shouldn't be wrapped up in, they're an easy target to launch legislation that ultimately will be extended far beyond the vulnerable communities that they are used on first, right? And so it's a warning to everybody. We shouldn't have this goes against the foundations of jurisprudence that have been established in this country for centuries. You should have the intention and the proof of the act to be tried for certain classes of crime. And this leads to very dangerous territory. But because it's a Somali boy, it's okay, I guess. And it's not. Your mother is in a different language. Your mother is in a different language. It didn't matter when she took her oath of burden, placenta, and breast milk. Her promise of patience and insomnia that she clung to for 7,000 nights of drifting in and out of speechlessness. No one saw the nurse sever the umbilical cord, your first and last line of unbroken communication tossed into a medical waste bin. The doctor muttering fate instructions in English for the nurse to rock you asleep with lullabies your mother couldn't understand. No one thought it odd that mother and son should bring a translator to parents' evening to bridge between their broken tongues, the swirling cacophony of "Warmhuleyehi." And what's she on about? Making it easier to just kiss her forehead in silence. How did you get here? 15 years of false starts. Sat together in a courtroom, an unbridgeable gulf, your mother shaping words like a prayer, except hoyo, mahad samaysay, isn't a prayer. It's a question you can't answer in a language she understands. My best friend from when I was yay high, Will. Put your hand up, Will, so everyone can see. I'm going to embarrass you. There he is. That's my brother. Big up for Will, please. I wouldn't be a poet today if we were not in the same punk rock band from being 15 years of age, right? And I'd just be like, what do you think to these lyrics? Are they all right? All right? Yeah, they're shit, Sam. They're always shit. But thank you so much for coming, Will. And I asked him earlier on, I said, give me a number, 1 to 99, because there's 99 pages in this book. I didn't know what I was going to read. He said page 20. And so I'll read that one. It starts on page 19, though. And I've got a minute left. Seed. My people... Schoolboy error, that, innit, Will? My people love like a seed that doesn't know which way to sprout. We are always nearly bursting. We keep it together. Unsure what will happen if we breach the tester. What kind of embryo will dare to venture? I don't know much about seeds, except that we do our best to hide the hilum that covers half our skin. You can answer it, it's cool. I'm not joking. I don't know much about seeds, except that we do our best to hide the hilum that covers half our skin. That these days we are always nearly laughing and crying, always nearly at the same time. We are losing track of the days. It rains inside the house. Outside we trace footsteps in shallow water. We are losing track of the days. It rains inside the house. Outside we greet each other. We greet each joke with the last laugh, and home is the air we pass between us. It rains inside the house. Outside, we trace footsteps in shallow water, always a step behind, a day behind, but for the amnesia of puddles, we trace footsteps in shallow water. We are losing track of the days, always a step behind, a day behind. We're losing track of the days, and home is the air we keep within us. Thank you.
So firstly, thank you so much for those amazing readings.
Thank you.
They were just stunning, like really amazing. And I have so many questions I want to ask you, and I've written loads of things down, but we haven't actually got time for me to ask all my questions. So I was really struck, Elmi, in your poem about the shield and the spear, about this idea of wielding a pen and not a spear. And in others of your poems that I've read, I have this real sense of you kind of witnessing life as it's actually lived, but I hadn't heard some of this darker, more angry poetry, which is really interesting to me. Maybe that's the time that we're in. But I wondered if you could speak to the idea of being a witness or being a chronicler, like what that means for you as a poet, because it feels like that's what's going on with your work.
I think we're all witnesses. Every single one of us are witnesses. Some of us, either fortunately or unfortunately, have the privilege to write it down. And therefore have the responsibility to create vocabulary. In Somali, the role of the poet is to articulate what is felt but cannot be articulated, the inarticulable. Like the audience or the society, what you call the bulsho in Somali. Then you have the abuan or the poet, and his job is to mirror the inarticulable. So for me, it's just a journey of trying to find vocabulary for myself, primarily, and then hopefully, if that is useful for other people. So the witnessing is important. I mean, I would love to look away. I would love to. People always talk about being woke. I think people who are quote unquote woke would love to sleep. Do you know what I mean? But they don't have the luxury to do so. So then you're suffering from insomnia. You might as well write a poem.
Warda, I loved your pamphlet, and then I was really pleased to hear that the poems you read tonight, which were so beautiful, carried on that theme of family and kin. And that's the thing I find really moving about your poetry, that there's this nuanced and complex and loving kind of but dispassionate sort of gaze upon family in all the way that it's lived. And I just wondered if you could say a bit about, you know, why family for you? Why has that become so much the subject of your poetry?
Thank you, Erica. I just think I've always been sort of like my journey to poetry was mainly sort of like through storytelling and family sharing sort of like stories and the legacy and the heritage of that. And I always found it to be a really tender form of expression, to show awe, admiration, sometimes to just observe, just to listen. So I think that's just how I came to find poetry as well. In terms of the way that it's been utilised within my family dynamic, it's I remember like my mum who's here somewhere, like she actually like sometimes when people are getting married or something in the group chat, she'll just like voice note a poem to people as well. So I see it as a form of like celebration and connection. And I just found that to be a very Somali way of viewing it. It's really democratic. Poetry is a seamless form of communication. And I just think for me, the way in which I like to honour those that are dear to me is through documenting and writing poetry for them. So it's a love language of sorts. Until I'm angry. And then you get another one. Those don't go out though. They just stay in my notes app.
I mean, the poems aren't all sweetness and light. There's like interesting things going on there, but there is that love. It is so beautiful to see. Thank you. Sanatar, I wanted to ask you as well about language, because it feels like in so much of your poetry you're kind of interrogating language. Like there's this feeling when you read your work that like know your history, go deeper, and I feel like sometimes you're interrogating like at the level of the word or at the level of the sound, and I was wondering if you could talk a bit about that, like your relationship to language as a material or as a landscape.
I think if I would have had teachers, Will can attest this. If I had Warda as a teacher at school, I probably wouldn't have been doing this, right? Because education was such a war zone, and I don't mean that lightly, like it was a very difficult place to be, and I remember reading Malcolm X's autobiography, and he mentions how he was really, quite bright at school, and the teachers used to say, "You're not as dumb as you look." I heard that, I was like word for word, like you'd hear that, and there's not a lot of diversity in Hull in the 90s when I was at school, and so it became almost like a challenge, like I didn't have the social and cultural capital. I mean, I was asked a very similar question yesterday, so apologies for those who are getting it twice now today. But yeah, you could be a child of millionaires, right? But if you're a second-generation immigrant into this country, you still lack the... I wasn't, by the way, far from it. But, like, you know, there's still, like, a cultural and social capital that, like, distinguishes you from everybody else that you don't have access to. You don't have access to this entire frame of reference. And it's weaponized. You know, you know, this is a way to keep people like us out. You know, and not just us, white working class people too. You know, it's and I grew up in an area where it was white working class people who'd been forgotten. Hence why Reform are doing so well there. You know, there's a long legacy of this, and it's language that kind of, you know, is used to intimidate, is used to privilege certain classes of people, and I thought, well, I'm not having that. You know, I'm gonna learn everything that you think you can use against me, and I'm gonna see exactly how I can use it for what I want to use it for, which is to advance a certain truthfulness. You know, and I'll say one very short thing. I've been revisiting some of the biblical stories, and I've gone back to the idea of, you know, Moses, alayhi salam, his mum putting him in a basket, right, because of the fear at that time of, you know, being. I mean, you don't have to believe in this as actually being literal, but, like, you know, there's a lot of truth and there's a lot of wisdom in the tale, and
that shape of story exists in many different cultures.
It does,
the child
yeah.
in the basket down the river. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And where does Moses end up? You know, his mother puts him in the basket out of fear for his life, right? Because Pharaoh's killing the firstborns of the Israelites, right, or the sons of the Israelites born in that year. Where does he end up? In Pharaoh's home, right? And I think about us, and I'm like, we've ended up here, right, in the equivalent of our Pharaoh's home, ultimately, right? But the Exodus wasn't just the Israelites. It was also a lot of Egyptian people who heard the truth of what Moses was preaching, and also said, you know, actually, I can see that, you know, everybody in here, you've listened to some really hard words against this country, right, in a poetic form, you know. And you've applauded them because it speaks to something that is transracial. It's bigger than our individual stories. It's the human story, you know. And you're not accountable for the crimes of a nation or the crimes of an empire. You just happen to be born here. Yeah. And so I feel like, you know, we have a responsibility to speak that truth, and it's up to everybody else to listen to it and take from it what they want, really. But I don't see it as a coincidence that we've ended up being raised in the land of ultimately in the land of our imperial overlords. You know, there's a grand irony in that. We just didn't get put in a basket. Well, you know.
I don't know what four poems you're going to read. I don't know what the best order is, but Samata, would you like to read a poem?
Our founder, who art in Cali, programmer by trade, thy startup come, thy will become a FTSE 500. Give us this day our dividends in cash or fixed stock options, as we outperform all coders against us. Lead us all into C-suite, but deliver us from lawsuits. For thine is the valley, transistors and diodes, forever and ever. AI.
I thought I would do a Somali call and response poem because everything I did was so serious. So are you ready? Ball's in your court. I always do this for a Somali audience. This is based on Ares Isa Karshe, you know? So it's in English, but but you have Somali parts. So so I do a verse, and then you guys say what? Do you know? Ha hey. I say hadika la wahallaha. You guys say? Ha hey. Excellent. So, example verse. You ready? You can clap as well. You remember? Mighty measures wake up to treasures of many moons, then gone too soon. That vacant room or gloom and doom. This musing marks my moving map. Okay, you say runta, and then I say hadika la wahallaha, and you say ha hey. Okay, so one more time. Mighty measures wake up to treasures of many moons, then gone too soon. That vacant room or gloom and doom. This musing marks my moving map. Hadika la wahallaha. Because believing stopped me from leaving, gave me the reasons I live with seasons. Orion's belt held up my tent. This musing marks my moving map. Hadika la wahallaha. To know a nomad, it's not absurd. To know is heard. What you have heard is heresy. Heroes roam these plains, you see. This musing marks my moving map. Hadika la wahallaha. Thank you so much.
I went for a walk yesterday at Lady Bower Reservoir in the Peak District. And this poem is about, we used to spend a lot of Eids there growing up as a family. And it's currently in this candlestick press, 5 poems about the Peak District. So this is Eid at Lady Bower. After Salah, Arba would haul us into the Silver Nissen. 4 girls in off-white puffy dresses, and I would huddle under Hoya's batwing abaya and clutch at her wings. We'd traverse along the Lady Bower wall, me saying it's a giant V-shaped bath, Arba laughing and teaching me about the plug holes at the bottom and how the water is carried through tunnels. I'd ask him if it takes him back to the foothills of his boyhood, the rock crevasses he knew by heart. He'd tap my nose and say, places are empty without those we love, Owl. Afterwards, we'd lay on our thick floral print blankets under the shade of grand firs and blue conifers. We'd settle somewhere he could pray Asr, away from prying eyes and wayward dogs. I think of the water falling into itself and how we all search for the stillness in the current, the silence and grace of being loved. Years later, we refuse the trips and make our way into a world of distant places, like an estuary joining the sea. But here in the tropical heat of my new home, thinking about those afternoons lulls me to sleep. You seem taller in the November light. And wallahi, I would do anything to search for lynching on tree bark again, to race with you all up the bridleway. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so now it's your turn. I don't know if there's a microphone. Yes. If you raise your hand, it's probably the easiest way, and then a microphone will come to you.
Firstly, thank you all so much for sharing your poetry. My heart is so full, and I'm really grateful to you all. My question is kind of going back to what you said, Almi, about being witnesses, but not necessarily wanting to be. I think that's something a lot of us relate to. But I think as poets, you kind of really have no choice but to witness. And so I guess my question is for all of you. I'd love to hear what you do when what you're witnessing is so heavy, and so how do you get yourself, what nourishes you in those moments, and what feeds your creative spirit?
I cook food for other people. I love cooking. It's great because I can't. When I'm cooking, I'm not thinking, so I can just like cook, feed, whatever. It's nice. I think it's really. I think fundamentals are really important. Like we live in a very technologically advanced world that kind of atomizes us and makes us forget our fundamentals. And our fundamentals, for me, my fundamentals are like, I'll cook, and I'll talk to friends, and I will, I don't know, go to the mosque where I volunteer and then feed more people there. But like, I think fundamentals are important. Working within your community is important. And also I think tiering your politics, because there's what's happening globally and there's what's happening right at your doorstep. You know, so there's about tiering that politics. So it's like, which morsel of food do you eat first? It's always the one closest to you. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes you can hold something else back in order to give something else privilege. And I think that really helps, because some things you can't actually alter. But then what fuels you are the things that you can. You know, so that practice I think works really, really well. And also like learning is really good. I spend the longest time not writing anything because I've got no words for it. And my basic reaction to horror is to look away. Like, forget all this witness business. Do you know what I mean? Like, but there's some things we're not supposed to see. It's horrible, you know, and you don't actually have to see it to know it's happening. You know, so it's natural. It's the natural instinct when confronted by great horror to look away from it. And we shouldn't feel bad or ashamed that we're like, no, turn that off. I'm not interested. Do you know what I mean? Because you still have to live in your head. Thank you. Anyone?
Thank you for your question. That's a really lovely question. I think for me, obviously, I am an English teacher in secondary school, and also I work with young girls in the community, you know, writing poetry as well. And I feel like with me, like returning into community spaces, rejoicing in, you know, the act of storytelling, sharing, reshaping, reclaiming narratives, being self-expressive. I'm really not here to suffer. I really want to find the joy and the beauty in writing and connection. And even when something feels painful to portray or depict or write, there's something beautiful in having a story or a poem or some type of art out of it as well. So I think just like community and sharing with people and celebrating, because we ain't got time to be sad all the time. Mm-hmm. That's for me. So I try to find return back to teaching and listening and hearing other people's work. Thank you.
saaba u taaganna sanka ka hadlaynaaba sankuno taagayan wallahi. So I just wanted to talk to everyone here. How do you go about in your lives as a British Somali poet? Where do you get your creativity? Do you volunteer the mosque? What do you do? How does it come about, the words that you put down to your books, you know? How do you go about getting that creativity, the juice is flowing?
Maybe Samatar first, because you haven't
Okay.
answered it.
Well, that is a good question. Not sure I've got a clear answer for that, to be honest. No, I mean, I'm also a quarter Irish, though, so I think that's probably where I get some of my humility from. I don't know.
You say this.
I say this, yeah. Yeah, I know. I think certainly writing is just a craft, right? You know, it's same with any other craft that you can think of: woodworking, joinery, painting, whatever it is. You know, you have to kind of serve your apprenticeship, really. And even though I kind of do ascribe to a rather esoteric way of understanding the process of creativity and inspiration being something intangible almost, you still have to put in the hard yards. You know, and if you're not sat with intention and pen in hand, it's not going to happen. But ultimately, and I think this perhaps links into the arrogance dimension, although, you know, kibir is for Allah, faqat, right? You know, and maybe one of the problems we have as a community is we kind of are too arrogant in a way that is not permissible. You know what I mean? Arrogant, you know, I'm better than you because of my qabil or kida. It's not healthy. And I know you're not, subhanallah, hijab, right? I know that's not what you're referring to, right? But it's there. What I think I'm speaking to is something that I see missing a lot from the young people I work with. So I do a lot of community work and always have to. I think probably all of us do at some level. Is inner confidence, self-esteem. You know, forget the bravado. I mean, I read a poem about my cousin earlier on. Like, he doesn't look me in the eyes when I'm talking to him. Now, this is a kid who, like, had North London on smash, right? Apparently, yeah? Like a little rogue. And because I'm his older cousin, and we've always had this relationship of deference and respect, if I'm talking to you, don't look me in the eyes. Yes, wallah, ha, wallah, may wallah, sa, may ma, wallahi, wallah, wa sahbati, right? And I know inside he's broken, right? The bravado, the yeah, blah, 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 all this, like, no, it's an act, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that unites perhaps most people who can have the courage to seek the inspiration to write and to communicate and to express is a centeredness in something. It'd be different for everybody. And that's what we have to develop as a community, fundamentally, right, is self-esteem. And it's not in your identity or in your, it's a multiple of factors that, contribute to it. But there's a real lack of self-belief. Also, we're the fastest community. I don't even share my ideas anymore with our community. I don't. There's a hadith that supports it. Rasul said, just keep your ideas to yourself, man. You know what I mean? Because our community is the first one to be like, they just want to rubbish it. I'm like, yo, I didn't even finish the pitch. Let me get to the end, right? So, like, they'll destroy you before you even start. You know what I mean? Like, you can never do that. You can never achieve this. Like, what, you? And our people just waiting to see somebody else do it. And then you'll get all the copycats in the world. And then, but our people think that's a problem. I'm like, copy me. If you see anything that is good, copy me. If you see anything that is bad, don't. It's real simple. You know what I mean? But also look outside of our community, because if anybody's doing it, right? If Neil Armstrong really did walk on the moon, you can do it. You don't have to wait until the first Somali to do it, to think it's possible. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can do it. If I hear about a German, right, going like this and flying one day, right, with his arms, right, I'm be in the garden practicing.
Opposed to his legs.
Opposed to even if he did it with his legs, I don't need to see a Somali do it. You know what I mean? That's the confidence we have to build, right? If it is possible, you can achieve it. You don't have to wait for permission. Just try. And the inspiration will come. Barakallahu feek.
Thank you. We just have time for one question.
Thank you so much. And it's really nice to see Northern Bunch in London. So big up the North. We love it. So I wanted to ask you a question specifically linking to, I'm an activist and organizer myself, and I wanted to talk about joy and the role that we play in building the world that we want to see, because we consistently, as you are storytellers in the work that you do, I wanted to ask you, like, what are the stories that you want to tell of the world that you want to see, rather than like the anger that's built up in us that like is often translated into words. Like, if you were to tell us the stories of the world that you want to live in, you want to build, that you want to hand over to your children, like, what does that world look like? And how do we build that? How do we focus on that joyful stories rather than like the anger that's built up in us because of the world that we live in?
Just something real short. Like, I've tried to write a happy song and a happy poem for decades. It's just not coming out, man. And I'm a really happy-go-lucky guy, right? You know what I mean? Like, I like to have a laugh. I can have a laugh. I will. You know what I mean? Like, it's, a little bit, but like, just don't come out the pen.
But your poem, is it Shield? The one about being a father?
Yeah.
It's like such a beautiful, tender poem.
Yeah.
So maybe not joy, but
tenderness
it's there.
is there.
It's so beautiful.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, but joy is coming.
Did you want to speak to that?
What?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, I think the truth is important, whether that's painful, whether that's truthful, whether that's beautiful. And I think, like, when you write, it's a deeply personal experience, and like it inhibits sort of like the world and the wider feelings that you are feeling at that moment. And I think it's important that, like Yusra said, that the rage, the anger, that all of that has a space within the writing as well. And that's not to say like the experience of exploring that and articulating that isn't beautiful, or joy comes from sharing that, or the people saying, oh, I recognize that. Like, I was deeply moved by the story of your cousin. And when I was listening to it, I recognized others that I could imagine or know in that same situation. But sometimes it's the collectivism and the connection between what is painful that joy can, come from. So I also agree that sometimes that pain is a pivotal part of the process, and inshallah that can transform into more joyous experiences.
I just wanted to say a few things. One, really importantly, I don't believe in protecting your joy. I believe in sharing it as the best way to protect it. So, like, it's an inductive process. Give it to the people around you, they give it back to you. Two, I believe you should be hospitable to your rage. Like, welcome it, give it a cup of tea. Say, what's up? What's going on? Do you know what I mean? Because we try and protect our joy and avoid our anger, our rage, and whatever. As an act of protecting our joy, we should share our joy as much as possible, and then be hospitable to our anger. Like, go boxing, punch the shit out of something. Do you know what I mean? Like, because we have to live in societies where we have to be really nice to each other. Do you know? And so what are you going to do with the fact that you have rage? Like, what? So figure out what you're going to do with it. Go mountain biking, go boxing, go do something with that rage. And I find that really useful. I box, and then I cook. And then we all eat together, and it's nice.
Sounds like an excellent regime.
Together, though, really like chess boxing. It's like,
but also words are really powerful. Like, I'm religious. I'm a Muslim. Like, God utters the world into existence. Literally, it was uttered into existence. Everything we had be, and then it becomes. So the privilege of a poet and the gift of having this word, we call it creativity. I wonder why. But you have this capacity, and you might think that it's actually not very useful, but a word will take a thorn out of your friend's back where they cannot see it. A word will lift someone up when they're down. A word will give somebody a mask that they can wear into the world. So like be like, curate your words. This is how we share joy. Like, are we wielding weapons, or are we giving gifts? Do you know what I mean? Are we really taking the time to acknowledge each other? Are we upwarding each other? Are we really using our words to shine the light on each other? Are we celebrating each other loudly? Or we're like, okay. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, how are we using our words? And if you want joy, then live it. You live it. It's around you, and maybe we can learn to write it as well. But like, at the very essence, I think it doesn't belong in a piece of paper. It doesn't belong in a text. It belongs with my mate. Yeah. It belongs with the audience. It belongs with people that I meet. It belongs with that stranger that I've said good morning to, and they're like, "Whoa, okay." I'm like, "Wait, I'm from Manchester. I will say hello to you." I mean? It's okay if you think I'm weird, but joy is that, with something we should share, and something tangible, and there's a poetry and a poetics in joy. Yeah. And it's not something we pursue. It's something we innately carry. We just have to acknowledge. It's not like the American thing, freedom and the pursuit of happiness. It doesn't mean you're ever going to catch it. It just means you have to run after it for a very long time. But it's not that. It's something we have innate within us, that we carry, that we hold.
It brings us joy. Yeah,
it brings us joy. And the best way to guarantee that you have it is give it to somebody else. See what their reaction is. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, oh, I'm cooking something here.
I just thought of a lyric from one of my favourite songs, which kind of encapsulates this. Björk, Hyper Ballad. If you know, you know. The lyric is, and I go through all of this before you wake up, so I can feel happiness and feel safe again basically, right? And that's essentially, I feel like, the pursuit of what we're doing, right? You know, I don't think, you know, when we met each other in the groom room, it's joy.
It will left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we have joy to see each other. You know, we go way back, like, we've been on a long journey, and it's the word that's brought us together, and this shared experience and the rage, but we're never angry towards one another. It's like, it's just joy to see one another, right?
Yeah.
And camaraderie and fraternity, and it's that shared passion we have for expression and search for the truth. And I think if we didn't have this at all, I don't know where I mean, speaking for myself, I don't know what I'd be doing. Really, like, I don't think I'd be a very happy person at all, you know. So, regardless of the texture and the timbre and the tone of what you read, it brings us a lot of happiness. You know.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all four of you. I feel like if they didn't have some scheduling thing, we could both stay here and chat. But
Squatters' rights.
yeah, it's amazing. Thank you so much for all of you for being here as well.